Hey everybody, Steve Burns here from Chromolution.com. All right, so I have here in front of me a photograph from Mike. And Mike, I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a workflow as to how to approach this. So if I was looking at this correctly on Discord, you wanted to bring another one of these large rock formations to fill in the space here, and then you also wanted the grassy area to fill in the dirt area here. Okay, so I'm going to give you a very practical a solution for this. First thing you're going to do is you're going to duplicate your layer with a Command or a Control J. All right. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the outline of this right down here, and what I see is something that I can easily select. All right. So I'm going to come right up here to my quick selection tool and just bring it across just like so. Now I spilled over a little bit in the rocks, no big deal. So what I'm going to do is hold the Alt or Option key down and take away those areas that I did not want to select. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way. In fact, I'm going to hide that bar because it's annoying. And I think I'll just take that little bit out there and take that little bit out right over there, leaving pretty much mostly the grass. Okay, so there we go. So what we're going to do next is place that on its own layer. You're going to see why in just a moment. Control J, there it is. It's now on top on its own layer. I will also duplicate this one last time because I want to use this duplicated one to fill in the grassy areas right here in the foreground. And I can simply do that by hitting the V key for Victor to go to my move tool on the keyboard. And if I hold down shift, I can move that top layer down like so in one direction, or just no shift and just place it like so. Now I'm going to place it over this area that I want to replace that muddy foreground. So let's bring this on up. Let's hit the Command T, and I'm going to just stretch it out a little bit like so. That should work, and do something just like that. Maybe I'll give it a little more stretching. That'll work really well. So now hit the Enter key. Your next job is to give this a layer mask. Now I'm going to give this a black filled mask. By default, if I hold down the Alt or Option key and select the mask option right down here below your layers, third icon from the left, it'll give me a black filled mask, which means it blocks out the entire effect. Hit the B key for the brush. I'm going to right click, and I want to get my nice soft edge brush, which allows me pressure sensitivity, so now it's targeted. I'm going to take my brush, make sure I have a nice soft edge, which I want to just slowly bring in the effects of the top layer. So I'm going to start to paint in with white on the mask, and see, it's your brush technique that blends it seamlessly together. No fancy masking techniques, just put it over. Looks like I can move my grass over a little bit. In fact, what I'll do is you'll notice that the mask and the layer are connected. I want to resize the grass, but not the layer. So I'm going to hit that little linking system in between the two to unlink them, then select only the grass. And I think I'll just hit Command T and just go ahead and just stretch it across like that. Okay, that works just fine. I'll go ahead and edit the mask again, select the mask, and go ahead and add a little more white just to blend that on in there. And that looks pretty good. Now you can see here I got a little bit of repetition going. I can eliminate that by going to the grass again, go to my transform, and I think what I'll do is just, let's go ahead and just stretch it up and out just to get a different look and feel. There we go. And then I'm going to get rid of this in the foreground. So I don't want this duplicate. I'm going to get in close. And what I think I'll do is I'll go to the stamp tool in this case, or better yet, come right over here. The fourth tool down on the right hand side, we have what's called a spot healing brush. Great tool. So what I just simply going to do is paint over this area. It's going to turn black, and when I release it, it will fill that in with the grassy area that I want. All right, so I'm going to undo that very quickly, and I'm going to make sure I've got content aware turned on, and I'm going to make sure that sample all layers are off because I only wanted to sample the grass from this layer. It was sampling the grass from everywhere, which I didn't want, so I'm going to select that there, and there it is. Now I'm going to turn off, let's see, I think I've got to create texture on there, proximity match, there we go. We're going to do that. I'm going to undo it again. There we go. Now it's matching. So I wanted to make sure the proximity match is turned on to match the grass that's associated, that's in the local area that I'm actually painting down on. Okay, and I can also do the same thing for the one back here. I can go back to the grass to see where that's coming from. That's probably coming from the very back layer, or the very bottom layer, almost the bottom layer. And I will go in this layer, apply that same technique. All right, so make sure it's selected. I'm going to turn these off and on. And there we go. Okay, so that solved the problem right there just by turning off that layer, because that's where that extra piece was coming in. So okay, good. So we'll stick to that. Now your next looks not too bad, right? No, we can add more grass if we want to, but it's not too bad at all. So let's go over here and add this rock. We want the rock to be somewhat dissimilar in nature. So what I'm going to do is probably add one of these. I think I'm going to take this one right here. In fact, yeah, I'm going to take this one right here. We're going to go over, get our quick selection tool, and I have sample all layers turned on in my options bar right up here. And let's go ahead and just select this rock formation. So I think what you were trying to do was utilize this particular commit tool, which is the mixer brush, right? All right, so I've got it selected. I'm going to go target the mixer brush. I've got 100% wet, 100% load. Here, I want to load the brush with whatever I'm going to select. So now it went back to the original brush that was used before. So I'm going to right click, and in fact here, let me just create the brush from this particular rock there. Okay, so we have the rock, and just to keep it simple, I'm going to go ahead and add in a new layer. Photoshop uses the shape of the brush, right? Uses the shape of the brush. It's going to be based on black. I'm just adding a new layer. Hit the D key, foreground and background. Just add in black in there, and let's go over here to Edit Menu, Define New Brush Preset. There's the shape that I'm looking for. Now, once I create the shape of that rock, I'm going to delete that layer. Well, I won't delete it. I'll go ahead and hit Select All and hit Delete key and delete the black content. Now, I have my brush. There it is. I'm in my mixer brush now. So over here, mixer brush is selected. And I'm going to hold the Alt key, Alt option, and I'm going to sample this rock there. Alt, left click and release, and sample the rock. Sample all layers was not turned on. That's why we see nothing in the box over here. So I'm going to sample all layers there. Okay, now we're going to come back, place it on top, Alt, left click and release, and right there you can see there's an image in here. So now I can come in here on this brand new layer on the top, and I can put that rock right in there. Okay, now here, once you have that rock in there, we can change it up a little bit. right? It looks very similar to the one that's next to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it up. I want to make sure I save this brush, and I can right click, go to my gear drop down menu, new brush preset, and here I'm gonna select include tool settings. There. Okay, so that way we save that actual brush with the color and details and all. So now I have myself an official a rock brush, and I can place this rock brush anywhere. Okay, now I accidentally sample from another area, but I'm gonna go undo that there. Now I want to go back to the standard brush, hit the B key on the keyboard, that goes to the standard brush. I'm going to go grab one of these other brushes here. I've got some brushes I was playing around with, and I think they'll be good brushes for etching brushes. I want to etch away portions of this rock. So if I go let's grab that one there. Let's take a look at the brush properties very quickly. That one automatically, that was actually a mixer brush option. So I'm going to do some right click. I'm going to grab another option. I'm going to go up and see what else I have here to play with. And let's see, what is this going to give me here? So if we select this, that too is a mixer brush. I want to make sure I'm in the B key for the brush. There we go. And let's go to the brush, and I'm going to go up here to the top. And I'm going to look for something other than, let's see, what is this one going to give me? Okay, that's a nice old brush there. And I'm going to go to my brush properties. As you can see, that's kind of what I want, right? Kind of what I want. So if I go to the brush properties, I'm going to take the brush tip shape, just give it a little spacing, something like that. And I'm going to turn on the transfer to apply opacity. Okay, and I'm going to utilize this. That's if I go back to the brush tip shape right at the top. Let me kind of rotate it around and see. I'm going to get something like that. I think that'll work. I'm liking this. I can bring the spacing a little closer together like so. Save it, or else I'm going to lose it. And I'm going to save it again, because I want to include tool preset, turn that off. I want to include this for all my brushes in Photoshop. I'm going to do one last thing. Under my shape dynamics, I'm going to use the angle jitter based on my brush tilt. See that? So now when I tilt the brush in Photoshop, it's going to rotate like so. Now why do I want that? Well, let's go to our rock. Let's go give this a layer mask. We're going to paint with black. And for this one, I'm going to bring the brush down in size a little bit. And I'm going to possibly just change it up. First of all, I think what I would like to do is let's disconnect that mask so we can work on the rock alone. And I think first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add something like a transform and a warp. And I can play around with the look and feel of that. Kind of change it up a little bit, give it a different look and feel. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to break it up. So I'm going to edit the mask, paint with black, and start breaking it up to make it look a little different. So I'll rotate it around a little bit, tilt it around, and maybe clip off the top. So now it doesn't look like, it's not going to look like the one next to it. It's going to have a little bit of a different look. We're going to rotate this around and just tap that off. Okay, and that works. That works. Just something to think about. Alright, so I'm going to take off these edges so it looks like the grass is on top of the rock, which is exactly what I want. Pull it back, and you have a little bit of a different looking rock. And I can still come in here and edit this a little bit. It's a little bit of a different looking stone structure coming out of the water than this one here, even though you utilize that one as your extra rock to put into the water here. So think about editing your photos in that fashion. Simplify the process. Okay, that was it. So I thought that would be a little helpful video for your assignment. Here, think about birds you can find to make brushes from, and paint the birds in here and across the sky to give it a sense of realism. Go do some research online in terms of capturing flocks of birds to add in here of some sort. Something give you that attracts your attention to the background there. And then think about a haze brush to put back in here as well, right? To give a little bit of more haze in the background. I could use this actual brush I'm using now for a haze brush. So if you think about it, if I make a brand new layer just for your haze, right? We'll call it haze. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to alt click and click on that color haze way in the background. As you can see, the foreground color while I'm in my brush tool holding the alt key gives you your eyedropper. I sampled that color and you can see it right there in the foreground color. Now I'll just to prove to you I can utilize this brush for a haze brush. So if I come up here, fourth icon from the left, go to my options here. Let's play around with turning this into haze. So I'm going to adjust the size. I'm going to adjust the spacing a little bit, and let's see something like this. Go to the brush tip shape. I want the angle to change over time. Okay, and then I'm going to add some scattering to this. Add a little more scattering like so. I'll go back to the brush tip shape, pull it back together a little bit like that. Transfer is turned on. And I might try two different colors. I've got the blue for the foreground and white for the background. So why not? I'll give that a try. And I'm going to go over here to my color dynamics and alternate that color over the length of the strokes. I'm going to put it right about there. So it's just some subtlety there. If I feel I'm done with the brush, just go ahead and click the new brush preset, save it. Okay. And now I am going to give this a little bit of a test. Transfer is on for pen pressure. So I'm going to do a very light pen pressure right in here. There we go. All right, a little bit too much. Now sometimes Photoshop is real sensitive, so I'll bring down the opacity. I'm going to take it to around 47%. I'll undo that. So it gives me some subtle little, there we go, not so harsh. So an overall haze, and then go a smaller brush to go deeper in the back. And as I get in close here, and bring in a little bit of atmospheric haze right back there along that line, okay? Bring it up a little bit, just light. So remember, it's using two colors. It's utilizing the blue and the white, mixing them together. And if you want to just soften it up a little bit, because I love the texture going on in here, but let me make them much bigger and go way up there. There we go. And if I come over to the filter, blur, Gaussian blur, give it a little bit of softness, not too much, so I want to keep some of that texture in there. There we go. Okay. Oftentimes that haze will be lit up a little bit, and you can always get that effect if you add a new layer utilizing the same brush. Change the layer blend mode to something like screen, and what that's going to do is I'm going to make it real small here. This is going to go across that horizon line, and I'm going to paint that on there. It's going to make it a stronger effect. And remember, and that's its own separate layer. And that too, you can give this a little bit of a filter, blur, Gaussian blur, just to kind of blend it in a little bit if you like. So this is good for a smoke brush as well, or a fire brush. You can use it either way. All right, so that's just some thoughts. I'm looking at the overall color balance of it. I'm looking at the haze. I have a little bit of blue in there, so keep in mind that we can add, well, maybe we can add a little bit of a color balance to this. So with that selected, Control B for color balance, or image adjustment. Why? Because we're going to make a color, a tonal adjustment to an image. We're going to go over here to color balance. All right. And we can add maybe one a little more of a cyan, because it's basically a cyanish color everywhere. See, I go to red, or I can give it a little more of a cyanish. Now it starts to, oops, that's the wrong one there. Add more of the cyan. There we go. See that? Now it looks like it's blended in there more effectively. Okay. All right, so think about when you're working with your landscape photos, we're going to think about enhancing your photographs with some of those simple techniques like this, which is how these people win awards at these international photography competitions. They're adding all types of Photoshop magic that makes it look like the effects are actually there. All right, that's it. Thought I'll share that with you. Steve Burns from Crimelution.com signing off.